I see in the second wave, and this is what again I hear, a lot of young adults are dying, and they are actually dying from hypoxic, which is under home isolation, and they're missing the oxygen count going down, is again what is being told, So is that right? If that be the case, what are precautions one should take so that they don't reach the stage, where they lose lives? And why young adults are losing much more lives? We thought that it's only for the aged that this was a risky part, keep them safe. But now I'm seeing, and in my offices also, not only mine, most offices now, a lot of youngsters are falling ill, and God is kind, they're recovering well. But we didn't see in the first wave. The first wave we actually saw just some people fall ill, but this time we're seeing huge amount of fall ill. Why do you think is happening, Sridhar? What is it they should be taking care of that they don't get to the extreme case?
Yeah, I think what you said is very true. During the first wave, predominantly most of the sick people in my ICU were 70 years plus. Now half of them are in their 40s and 50s. So definitely a lot more sick patients are getting, a lot more young patients are getting extremely sick. I don't know the exact reason. It could be because either the virus is more virulent and is much more attacking. But I think the much more likely cause is the number of people affected are huge. Even in the first wave, we did see occasional people who are 40. So if 10,000 people got infected, you probably get one person who was 40 and sick. But now with the numbers, the denominator, the base of population who are infected being so high, I think a lot more of these young patients are getting sicker and they are getting admitted to the hospital. Regarding this concept of happy hypoxia, and people are happy with hypoxia, only later we find out. There is, I want to clarify on that because, for example, if you went in a flight, I did go on a flight to Ladakh and Leh along with my local IIT to test various pulse oximeters about 2 or 3 years back. So we're constantly playing out with pulse oximeters. So when we go on a flight, about half of the people in the flight will have oxygen saturation less than 94. But we don't even notice it. Okay. And likewise, once we landed in Ladakh, we went to the highest motorable pass. I think it's called Kardangla Pass. I can't remember exactly. Once again, all of our oxygen saturations was about 86, 87, and we didn't know it. So this concept that your oxygen can drop and it will cause you to have immediate knowledge that you're sick is not true. Oxygen can drop without causing you to have breathlessness. But the important point is it does not happen suddenly. It always happens gradually. So somebody's saturation will be 96. After a few hours, it might drop to 92, 93. And generally, deterioration happens over a matter of days. It never happens over a matter of minutes or hours. So I think now pulse oximeters are pretty ubiquitous, almost like temperature measuring thermometers. If you have a pulse oximeter and most of us have access to it, and you measure it, and your oxygen levels are 93 or less, you need to get to the hospital. Now, once again, there is a huge safety threshold involved. People with oxygen saturations of 85 also don't come to harm, but we don't want them to wait till it comes to 85 before they come to hospital. Which is why 93 or in some hospitals say 90 is a fairly good cutoff. So if you come in when you're having oxygen saturation of 93 or 90, it will take quite some time, a day or so before it comes to really critical levels. So it never drops dramatically. Have I answered your question? Is it
yeah, Rashid, that is very comforting because I have a pulse oximeter and I measure myself every 1 hour. No, now I'll not do that. Now I'll measure at least 5-6 hours. I think that's very, very helpful.
I'd just like to add here, even I've had many people 32, 35, one boy was 26, and luckily most of them got well, some are still holding on. So some of them do have a resting tachycardia. It's like Dr. Sridhar said, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a few days. So the earlier days, it's going to be a little resting tachycardia, which also is equally important, And
what does that mean, doctor, the term that you use right now?
Normally the heart rate is around 80. Normally the heart rate is around 80, maybe 90 when you are walking briskly or so. So they should also concentrate on their pulse rate. If it's remaining 70, the youngsters, many of them go to the gym, so their resting heart rate is 60, 70, sometimes 56. So suddenly it's going up to 90, 85, when they should also be told to do the 6-minute walk test. So many of them start doing teleconsultation nowadays, and because they don't want to come to the hospital, a lot of online consults are available. So I think day 5 to day 9 is what is important. If you count the day the fever started, fever, headache, body ache, those are the usual symptoms nowadays. And day 5 or day 6, the little cough starts, And I have had so many patients who I've brought to the hospital on day 6, day 7, and then just that first, and they say, no, it's nothing. I just had cold water. I just had, I was sleeping in the AC. They attribute it to that, but that is the beginning. And day 5 to day 9 is when they really deteriorate. It happens over a few days. And those are the days, if they can reach a hospital, they can be the little hypoxia, they can go on little low dose steroid, blood thinners, like, low molecular heparins, etc. Because many of them were my close relatives. Like one of my cousins is just 31. So he really, in spite of close monitoring between him and me, he landed up with a massive pneumonia. And touch wood, he's got better. But it was like daily, day-to-day basis, we were like, monitoring. And he's in Delhi. So it was so difficult to get a bed, etc. A lot of problems. But he's recovered. So this was day-to-day monitoring. And 6-minute walk test is what we should emphasize. It's not just the resting as saturation. They should walk in the room for 6 minutes. And the elderly patients should walk at least for 3 minutes, may not be 6 minutes. And that saturation is dropping by 2 to 3. That is also important.
No, when you said the pulse rate one, so the upward movement of pulse rate is the risky part, not the
Yes,
lower.
yes. Most of the time, it's the upward movement, which is important. Yeah. Because
so
even when they get discharged, these 30-year-old, 35 years old, even when they go home after 5 weeks, 4 weeks, the heart rate remains 110, 120. That is the way it is now. The breathing rate more than 30 and heart rate more than 100. These are all warning signs.
Yeah. So if the heart rate is moving up, the pulse is moving up, then again
Yeah.
get a check done. Something is
Again,
going on. Yeah?
red flags. Yeah, these are the red flags. Yeah.